No.
So, y'all backers are probably wondering where my Rokan book is. Where my Rokan book is. I back a Rokan book 20 years ago. I never got my Rokan book. Well, we got good news. It exists. It's almost done. This time we mean it. So yeah, so Max and I have been rushing, trying to meet a deadline because I had it in my mind that I wanted to have the book finished in time to sell it at a Comic-Con in Bogota. I live in Colombia, in South America. That's going to be at the beginning of October. Now, in the end, we decided, long story short, not to do that, mostly because it just doesn't make sense. The book's in English, so some people would want to buy it in English. A lot of people in Colombia speak English, but probably most would rather have it in Spanish. And if it's touch and go if we'd have the book finished by then, to be honest. It's not realistic that I could translate it and then letter it again in Spanish by then. So I just decided it wasn't worth it financially. Well, we decided that together. So the bad news is we're not doing that. The good news is we still worked our asses off to meet that deadline, which means that we have been picking up the slack and really getting it done, trying to, which means that we're very nearly finished with it at this point. Is that right, Max? Did I miss something?
Yeah, the black and whites are almost done. It's just a matter of lettering and painting.
Yep.
We've covered it.
There's so we finally settled the final page numbering and page order where we're gonna leave off the first chapter, right? And it's gonna be 34 pages. Right. So of those 34 pages, we have 33 of them. What is it? Penciled or inked or both or what? How do you call
it? Well, at least half of those are painted anyway. So
right.
The last sort of quarter really are in black and white.
So 33 out of 34 black and white done, entirely done. Something like 20 or 25 out of 34 totally painted. Colored, totally painted. And I've got something like 6 pages lettered. So it's coming. We're so close that I think it might be time to raise the price on Indiegogo. Because what I've always said, and anybody that has seen me on streams or both of us, we put it intentionally at a very low price for 2 reasons. One, because we didn't know how long it was going to take us, and we didn't want to charge a lot and then make you wait an unreasonable amount of time. And 2, because we're confident that if we hook you, you're going to read Rokan for the rest of your life. So maybe that was a poor business decision. Maybe it was a savvy one. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not doing this to make money. I'm doing this because I got to do it. So just to reiterate, we're so close now that I think I'm going to raise the price. So if you haven't backed it yet and you still want to rip me off with that unreasonably low price, you got 24 hours to do it.
Oh, let's give him a little longer than that because
how long, man?
see this for a couple of days. Give him a week.
1 week of still ripping us off with an unreasonably low price? All right, fine.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
Fine. You hear that, kids? 7 days and counting until Rokan more than doubles in price.
And also, we managed to sort the steal the cards.
Yeah, that's right.
We managed to sort the issue out with the steal cards.
Yeah, it was. I was scared for a minute there because I promised the metal trading cards as a stretch goal, and then I lost communication with the manufacturer for something like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like an inordinate amount of time. So I finally got back in touch with him. Apparently he was kicked out of Twitter or something. I don't know the ins and outs. I don't want to start rumors if they're not true. But the point is, that's sorted. So we will have metal cards. Fuchs.
Yeah, we were worried about that for a while.
Yeah. And I was afraid to say anything because I didn't want to upset people and then for nothing, which is what would have happened. Because if I had been to everyone, like, if I had announced to everyone via Indiegogo, like, oh, we don't have the cards, we don't know what to do, that would have freaked people out.
Yeah.
Thank God we are going to have the cards. Everything is going to be fine. So I think not doing anything about that turned out to be a good move.
Yeah, that would have been the last thing we would have.
Yeah, that would have been probably a bad idea. So yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We're on our way. I'll post this video I'll post this first part of the video up on Indiegogo for everybody to check out with some new art.
I wish I thought of this sooner, Max, but it occurs to me we could upload the new art right now on StreamYard and show it as overlays. I think we should do that.
Yeah, but if the people pick this up from Indiegogo anyway, they'll see the arcs. It'll be right there.
Yeah, I know.
So they would have already seen it before coming on there anyway.
Okay.
So it's all good.
So I'm not good at maths, but again, something like 99%, 99.5% of black and white's done. 75% of colors done. The lettering needs one more go over to make sure I've done a good enough job. Although I've been getting better at it, and Max will attest that it's true.
Yeah.
So there's something like 7 pages done. What's 7 out of 34? I don't even know what percent that is, but it's coming. It's coming, and you don't have to take our word for it. We're going to show you the art. Very soon. Thank you for bearing with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for
cheers
for not freaking out and not giving us too much shit about. But lesson learned. This takes longer than we thought. And we need to do a better job of staying in touch with our backers. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah. All right, we can start talking about whatever we want now.
Okay. What do you want to talk about?
Whatever we usually talk about. Got any other ideas?
I really like your idea that you told me about the original take on Peter Pan.
Oh yeah.
Should we talk about that, or do you want to keep that under wraps for the moment?
Yeah, we could talk about that. That's cool.
So that's a really good idea, Max, because Max had this, I think, I would say genius idea for a retelling of Peter Pan or a sequel of Peter Pan, but inverting the perspective to where the pirates are the good guys and Peter Pan and the Lost Boys are the bad guys. I love that idea for a myriad of reasons. Not least of which is that pirates are cool and I identify more with pirates than I do with
furries. The Lost
with-
Boys are furries.
yeah, exactly. So they're furries, and also I read Peter Pan recently. Max, you're not gonna believe this, but you're like, I felt I should read Peter Pan not too long ago, so I did do. Then I
Okay.
felt like I should read Blood Meridian, so I did. And then I talked to you, and you're like, right, you know what? I've just read Peter Pan and Blood Meridian, and I didn't know you were gonna read that.
No. No,
Synchronicity. That's
Yeah.
what it is. It's synchronicity. So I just read Peter Pan recently, and my impression was, holy cow, the guy that wrote this book is trying to groom children so he can sexually molest them.
There
That was my take, to be honest.
There are some theories about. I forget the guy's name now. About his history with kids and his upbringing and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I looked into a little bit, and I mean, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, and I don't have irrefutable J.M. Barrie. I don't have irrefutable evidence, but
it is interesting.
It's there is definitely smoke, and where there's smoke, there's usually fire. So it's such a cool story, and it's such a cool character, and it's such a good world that he's built.
Yeah.
But if I'm right, and GM Barrie is a creep, and the story is designed to make it easier to groom kids so you can hurt them, because that's my theory. So if that's true, it'd be cool for us to take it and flip it and make it based and have the bad guys be the bad guys, meaning Peter Pan's the bad guy, and have the good guys be the good guys. Because the way grooming works is you try to demonize the people that are actually trying to protect the kids, and you try to present the predator as somebody cool and trustworthy. Peter Pan.
Right, and there's a theory of there's loads of Reddit theories about Peter Pan, but one of them is that he some of the Lost Boys that did want to grow up, he was getting rid of them and then just replacing them with new kids.
Yeah, getting rid of them meaning killing them. Yeah.
Yeah. And the ones that escape and grow up, like they're
the pirates. Yeah.
They become the pirates, right?
So I think you're tapping into something really genius and really current, because we could have it to where the pirates are based and have sort of woken up and been ready. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I don't know about Red Pill.
Well, I don't mean like male rights or whatever that means, but when I say Red Pill, I mean realizing a truth that was hidden and that's hard to swallow.
Yeah.
That's all I mean by Red Pill.
Yeah, the eternal youth thing is a lie.
Correct. Yeah.
It's almost like Peter Pan is trying to stop kids from reaching their potential, right? Because he doesn't.
Exactly.
Because he or he doesn't want to, and I think a lot of the depictions of Peter Pan as well. He's always got like some of them. He's got like little horns, and he's got like that bamboo flute, and that looks like it's taken directly from
Pan, the god, right?
Yeah, God Pan, who is also
a child molester.
Well, he's aesthetically, because he was he a pagan image, but I think the image
pagan god or demigod, something like that.
Yeah, and he's also the god of like nature, so he's the god of chaos, and then he was the visage of him was then adopted to use as Lucifer later on with the goat legs and stuff
with
like
the
that.
goat, yeah. And there's a lot of that, because that was the inspiration for the Pan Piper, which is someone who lures children away from their village.
We should. I'll tell you what I want to do with it. There was this. Did you ever watch Dungeons and Dragons when you were a kid? The cartoon series.
I know about it. I've never really seen it.
Oh mate, it's really good for an 80s cartoon series. It's great. And there's one episode called Beyond Midnight. I think it's called Midnight.
I'm gonna make a note of that.
And it's essentially just about. I just really like this image where it's about a demon that lives in the underworld. And he lives in the underworld where he stopped time, right? So no one can age. He's like
Is it called City at the Edge of Midnight?
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Yeah,
cool.
And basically this demon, he takes children while they're he takes children while they're asleep in their room. A little bit like Peter Pan. I think Peter Pan sort of lures you out.
Right.
But this guy, like a portal opens under the bed, and then the kids sort of look under the bed, and a hand comes out, and he pulls them in. But he uses them to work in this big clock tower where they're all pushing levers all day long, basically to stop a big clock from going on to 12. So the night passes and they all age.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's really good. And well, basically in the cartoon, the kids that are from the main characters in Dungeons and Dragons, they end up going there and saving all the kids. But I was like, oh, that's. I feel like I could take elements from that and put it in this idea. I like, especially like instead of him, maybe some shit like Wendy has to go and sort of persuade her or sort of groom her because she's smart. But other kids, Lost Boys, he just turns up and then pulls them under the bed, you know. And then
and he is trying to groom Wendy, by the way. If you read the book, the sort of sensual undertones with the way Wendy and Peter Pan interact with each other, it's fucking creepy. It's not okay. Yeah, right. It's gross. Like, I'm pretty astonished because most people don't read the book, but they watch the Disney movie and they're like, "Oh yeah, Peter Pan."
I've never read the book. I've read about the book. I've only watched the film and Hook and stuff like that.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. What's up, Zayd? I don't think I'm wrong, dude. I read that book carefully, and I'm pretty sure that book is trying to get kids to be okay with being groomed. And that's more relevant now than it ever has been. And
the original,
I hate that, and I want to fight back.
Yeah, the original title for the book was The Boy That Hated Mothers. And then they changed it to Peter Pan because it was unpalatable.
Well, yeah, because that's disgusting, because you're trying to lure kids away from their parents and make them distrust their parents so they trust you instead. I don't know, man. I don't like that stuff. So that's a problem, because in the mythos, there's this concept of Peter Pan as a good guy. So I'm down with reverting that. I'm down with inverting that, I meant.
Yeah.
I'm down, because
you can do what you want with it. I only had like an opening short story, which was essentially Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, who are like these. They still look like children, but they're these demonic things. They can turn into these demonic things.
Yeah.
Being hunted down by, like, Hook's gone. I don't know if he's dead, but he's gone somewhere. And the pirates are being ruled by this new pirate that they've only heard about, called Captain Grin.
Okay.
And essentially, now this is rough, so we can fuck this.
Yeah.
Essentially, it just opens up with the Lost Boys being pursued by these pirates in Neverland, and then this one pirate catching them and killing them, and then I don't know if he kills Peter Pan or not, maybe, but he catches up with Wendy, and Wendy's too far gone. Like, she's been with the Lost Boys forever. She's now one of them, but she still looks like a little girl in the nightie, which I thought would be pretty creepy. And she has like a battle with this pirate, and the pirate, like, it's a full-grown adult, like he ends up skewering her. And then when she looks down, she sees on his belt is the little teddy bear from her brother.
Oh, now you just spoiled.
That's okay. It's not going to be. It's only going to be the first part.
Okay.
The rest of it will be fine. And then she'll realise that this new pirate is actually Michael Darling. Like, he was the little baby brother from the film,
right? And she didn't. It would that kind of makes sense in universe, because he's grown up, so his appearance is different. Whereas she doesn't grow up, right?
He'll look completely different. Yeah, and he'll look like he's covered with something as well. She'll realize it's his brother who figured out that Peter Pan was a wrong-un, and then eventually left. But when so then she realizes that that's her little brother, and then his motivation is essentially that he saw Peter Pan doing some dodgy shit and then tried to escape, and then as he was escaping, Pan slashed his face, So he's got like a grin across his face that you'll see when he
I like that.
pulls his mask down.
But
But his motivations is he's looking for Wendy so he can either save her or put her out of her misery, and obviously he does.
right, one or the other. Yeah, I like that. No, I like that a lot. And the reason this is such a great idea is because the wool's been pulled from my eyes about Peter Pan. So now I know what seems like the truth of it now to me. And so, but I don't want to give up on that mythology because it's such a cool world to have stories in, right? So pretty easy solution. Just tell a story where the good guys are the good guys and the bad guys are the bad guys. Because what's happened? Peter Pan is this deceiver who's actually evil, but the story of Peter Pan presents him as if he were the good guy. So let's just have a story where he's revealed to be what he really is, a deceiver.
Yeah. In this world as well, it like Neverland would be like a fallen Eden. Like he's tried to create his own Eden out of jealousy.
Exactly. Who does that remind you of, right?
Yeah,
and Lucifer in it.
Yeah, exactly. And in Paradise Lost, there's a scene where Satan sort of infiltrates the Garden of Eden by disguising himself as a cherub.
Right.
And
that's Peter Pan, yeah.
So our Peter Pan won't be like a 12-year-old boy. He's more going to be like a much younger, cuter looking dude, which makes it all the better when he goes that we can do something.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree because it's a more convincing.
Yeah, he's got to look
disguise,
really
right? Like a little innocent cherub. Yeah, like Kid Icarus or something almost.
Yeah, I did some notes a while ago, and it was like that. The opening scene was him arriving at Wendy's window for the first time. And
I mean, I like this idea. So, right. So, if you're just tuning in, one more week of the unreasonably low price for Rokan, then we're raising the price because we're that close to having it done. I still fully expect everyone to have their book in hand that you can sleep with it and feel reassured before this year is finished. They did that in the TV show Once Upon a Time. Peter was a bad guy. I'll have to check that out, Dave. Good call.
Wasn't the TV show Once Upon a Time a bit crap, though?
I don't know. I've never seen it. But it's also, I think, I haven't, in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Mr. Tumnus, right? That's in the same lines because Mr. Tumnus is a faun, like Pan was a faun. So that's the same thing in it. Because Mr. Tumnus, even though he's a good guy, it's pretty clear that his original intention was to interfere with Lucy in some way. You know what I'm going at, but then he changes his mind because his conscience wouldn't let him, and he's crying about it, right? So, you know what I'm saying? This is some heavy duty stuff.
I'm under no illusions that people haven't done these. It was, but it ran for like it was a bit crap. Is that what you're saying? And I'm under no illusions that people haven't done a touch on this idea before, because I know people have
yeah. But the thing is, here's the difference though, Max. Like Mr. Tumnus is a subtle nod to Peter Pan, right? But like I'm talking about appropriating the story and completely inverting it so that it's telling the truth. That's what I want.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
You should be able to do whatever you want. Anything, if it's what you want to do. And what you really want to do is invite me in. Let me in, Alec.
Exactly.
That's the real Peter Pan, all right? That fucking demon trying to take your soul and probably diddle you. That's Peter Pan, by the way.
How it would end, I have no idea. You'd have to have come up with some big crescendo for them all. I can't think that everyone should die.
Since we have, I mean, the writing is honestly the least time consuming part of the process. That's we have that's abundantly clear after our experience working together. So I think it would be cool, and I mentioned this to Dojo Kun, and he seemed to think it was a good idea. I think maybe the best thing to do moving forward, instead of making our audience wait 2 years at a time for a 30 or 40 page book, maybe what we could do is release a magazine that's like an anthology of stories. So what I had in mind, and tell me if you like this, tell me if you don't, like instead of instead of waiting 2 or 3 years for a supersized Rokan book, let's split it up into chunks, but then publish it in a series, in an anthology with other stories, because that could probably get done a lot quicker, because we could have one artist on each story taking up 1/3 of the time and the same amount of book, instead of waiting forever and ever and ever for one book. Right? Am I making sense? Did I express that adequately?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's probably what we're going to do from now on. So I think the next thing coming at you from our creative team would be Spore Magazine.
Spore.
And so for that reason, I've come up with this moniker, Miko, because that means something to do with mushrooms in it. And look at how clever I am, because you're Max Headroom, which is obviously a nod to Max Headroom. And so now I'm Miko Jackson, which is a nod to So Much in Common, an iconic 80s figure that's over the top. It's also my real life last name. So that's pretty cool. And also Miko and Max, that alliterates very well. So I like that. So
You should just put Miko in.
Okay, I'll do that from now on. Max and Miko, we're the Mushroom Boys.
Sounds like a really bad boy band.
The Mushroom Boys. Yeah, that's why we call it Spore Magazine instead of the Mushroom Boys. But it's fun that we each have but then but see, then when yours says Headshroom, then it's clear. Then the mushroom thing is clear, right?
Yeah, but just yours is smarter. Thank you.
Yeah, but it only makes.
Think it, man. Don't ever think.
But they got to match, though. We'll figure it out. So it either has to say Miko Jackson and Max Headshroom, or it has to say Max and Miko.
Okay.
But I'm fine with either way. And just to show you that I mean it, I'm going to change it right now.
Should I show you some pictures? Show you what I'm working on. Oh, there it is.
Isn't that funny, dude? Miko Jackson. A friend of mine came up with that.
That's good.
I thought it was genius. Yeah, that's what people want to see.
Getting there.
Getting there. That looks really good. Can I see the top panel again, please? Yeah, I love that.
Still got to extend it a bit on the left and right, but it's looking good.
It is looking good. That's so cool. What you were explaining to me the other day about, because we're trying to show this dichotomy between turtles and ants, right? Between older brothers and younger brothers. So it's pretty clear, I think, from that image, the way you've shown it, because he's there with the soldiers, but he's also isolated, right? He's the introverted one.
Yeah, for real. If you don't get it, but essentially, Rokan, the one sitting there that looks miserable, he's an older brother, and the rest of them are younger brothers. Rokan's like a wizard, and the rest of them are soldiers, and their outlook on life is completely different because of what they've subscribed to and what they are.
Exactly. And then if that wasn't clear, it should be
supposed to-
clear. It'll be
Yes.
clear there with the rest of the page.
It-
I couldn't
sort of-
be happier with those panels, by the way.
Yeah, you don't.
100.
Wicked. Don't worry, everyone. It all makes sense.
So yeah, I feel much better about everything, and I'm excited. I'm so excited because before 2024, I think this whole thing is going to be in the rearview mirror, and we can pat ourselves on the back for a job well done.
For sure. Yeah, man.
But yeah, I like that idea for the Peter Pan reappropriation.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I also I haven't had time to work on the script. I'm trying to figure out an office situation. That was the family drama I was telling you about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot of people living in my house at the moment, and I don't want to kick them out, but I also want space to work. So it's one of those things where I got to be the bad guy one way or the other.
It's stressful.
It is, but we'll get there. But yeah, I have so many writing projects that I want to get done.
Smash them out, mate, if you got time.
Yeah. I told you about the jacket, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I really do, if I say so myself.
Explain it again.
So then someone takes the idea and makes it before I have a chance to finish the script.
Listen. When you come up with ideas, the best tack to take, right? Unless you're being very specific about what way you're going in the plot, of course, is that loads of people would have had a crack at a similar idea. You've got to let that go. It's all in the execution, all of it.
All right, fine. So here's my idea. Yeah, I do. Here's my idea. A superhero whose superpowers are all contained in a leather jacket that he wears. And the superpower is very simple. He has all the knowledge, memories, abilities, and skills of the previous owners of the jacket. So in other words, the jacket is possessed by the ghosts of all of its previous owners. So that whoever has the jacket on can make use of the collective abilities of all of those men.
What sort of jacket? What does it look like?
That's the fun part. It changes depending on what powers it's being used. Because one of the ghosts is a World War I pilot, so then it's a bomber jacket. One of the ghosts is a drug dealer, so then it's like a gangster jacket, motorcycle rider, rock star, etc. So the jacket can change shape and size depending on who's using it at the moment, right?
Yeah.
And then they all come to the aid of this kid who's the only alive one. You like that idea? I love that idea.
Yeah, I like it.
I think it's really going to work.
Yeah, it's solid. Like I say, it'll all be in the execution.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of things we want to do and we're good at it. It's just so we have all these problems like real jobs and families and all that bullshit. But if it weren't for that, you know.
Oh, mate. You're all right.
I'm stressed, but I am all right.
Oh, man. You'll fix up.
I know.
Let's get rid of some of these layers. So theoretically, then, if you were to write about that Peter Pan
Yeah.
idea, where would you go with it?
Ooh, okay.
Like
Well, I mean,
an overarching story. Because
yeah.
in my head, it's Michael who's. This is the other thing as well that I thought was it was purely by accident. I thought this was cool. That he's called Michael, like so, and he'll be fighting essentially the devil a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So he's almost a little.
He's like the Archangel Michael, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have to give him like a sword of God or something at some point.
Maybe he could get Rokan's sword because that's the same idea.
Yeah, well,
Just kidding.
Like I say, it's all in the execution. But
yeah.
I read through. If I've not made it clear already, I read through Paradise Lost. There's a scene. They sort of talk about when angels and demons fight each other. They can't, or when the angels and the fallen angels fought each other in heaven, they can't actually kill each other, even though they're like both super powerful. So they're just beating each other into submission, really.
Right, and that's the idea. So that's so funny that you say that, Max, because the sword in Rokan, if it has fire on it, it can't kill you, but it's powerful. And if it doesn't have fire on it, it can kill you and it's poisonous, but it's not as powerful. The way I got that idea was from precisely what you just said. Because
really?
Yes, because angels have fiery swords and they're powerful AF, but they don't kill you. But so that's how I got the idea.
Yeah, there's a specific scene in Paradise Lost where Michael uses the sword on him, on Satan, and it sort of describes that like it actually cuts him, and it's like the first time he's ever felt pain, or the first time pain has ever existed was when Michael hit him with the sword. I thought that was metal as fuck. So we've got to put it there somewhere.
I need to read Paradise Lost. That'll be the very next thing I read.
It's interesting.
The reason I'm sure it is. The reason I never read it before was because for me all this stuff's real. Because I'm a Christian, and I don't think that John Milton has got exactly right how things happened.
Well, you have to look at it like it was,
but that's okay. It's a good story.
It's a fiction, but it was his fictionalization of something
that I think is a true story.
Yeah, but you can have stories about I don't know, real.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just telling you why I never read it before, but I'm looking forward to reading it.
Have you read the Divine Comedy?
I feel same thing with the Divine Comedy.
It is the same thing. It's quite funny parts of it because forget the guy that wrote it. Is it Don?
I think it's Dante.
Dante, yeah, it's Dante's Inferno. Yeah, he writes himself into the story, and he's meeting all these ghosts and people that represent different parts of limbo and hell, and they're all sort of commenting on what a great guy he is and what a great writer he is. And it's just funny to think back that he was writing all that about himself at the time.
That is funny.
I
mean, I think
puts forward the 9 circles of hell in a way that's interesting, and it, for some reason it catches the ire of a lot of artists because there's a lot of different versions and designs of the 9 versions of hell and Cerberus and all that sort of stuff.
So, I mean, I've kind of calmed down because when I, as a young man, sort of took a hard-nosed position that I didn't want to read those books, I was being silly because the fact that that's not the way it really happened necessarily doesn't mean you can't tell a story about it. Because
yeah. I mean, Robin Hood existed, but every single film is not a depiction of his existence, right?
Correct, exactly. And so these things, they don't belong to my religion. Right. Lucifer, Michael, Hell, Inferno. We don't have a monopoly on these things. So it can't be mad at other people representing them in fictional ways. So I'm not mad about it anymore. And I'm done being silly. And I'm going to read those books ASAP.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy them. Honestly. I mean, they're written in a way that's a bit flowery.
But I like that. I'm a nerd.
You'll love it then.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. It's actually really exciting because these are books I should be familiar with, so I can't wait to.
Yeah.
I
That's
can't
what I'm
wait
saying.
to remedy it. Yeah.
I'll speak to you, because some of it's quite. One of the reasons that I read Paradise Lost so recently is because I follow this YouTuber called Windy Goon, and he basically did a breakdown of it in a video that was a couple of hours. I was just listening to it while I was doing my artwork. But he's Christian. He's like super religious, and some of the bits he found quite moving. He was tearing up a bit, especially the parts about Adam and Eve and how they go from like this perfect love to being corrupted. He thought it was quite moving. And I could see like those sort of old stories, basic stories, pretty much in everything now. They're just diluted.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paradise Lost is so fascinating from a psychological perspective as well, because it's so easy to identify with Lucifer.
It is. It's sort of. So before I read it, there was a lot of there's a lot of reviews online where they sort of, because it's kind of known as the book that humanizes Satan, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if
But
you read
also,
the book, everything he does is out of fucking jealousy and hate. Like everything. So I don't know why
but
people.
that's the secret. So are we, right?
Yeah, I know that, but like,
Yeah.
it goes into his inner thought process where he's like, he doesn't want to be forgiven. He's not interested in being forgiven. He wants to do the things that he does. He's not forced into it by living in a totalitarian society. He just is all the worst parts of envy and anger sort of manifested in this being. And so he's a cunt. He's a cunt in that.
Right, but
I mean, you can understand it, but I don't sympathize him with it, maybe.
right, no, I see what you're saying, but it's like, I don't suppose you've ever read Nietzsche. That's not.
No,
that's,
I'm aware of some of his stuff.
yeah,
There.
I mean, it's hard to get through. It's very, very. What's the word I'm looking for? Because I don't want to give the impression that it's boring, because he's one of the most fascinating and entertaining writers, but it's really abstract, and it can be hard to follow. But because I read the book Thus Spoke Zarathustra,
Right,
and that's a fascinating book and a fascinating character, and that's of course where he famously says that God is dead and we have killed him, and there will never be enough water to wash our hands, to wash away the blood. And so I go back and forth and have done and still do between loving Nietzsche and hating Nietzsche and being confused about Nietzsche and seeing him as an enemy and seeing him as misunderstood. It's a very complicated question, but there's a lot of the same questions about Lucifer are in that book, right? Because the kind of idea behind the Overman is basically will to power. And
right.
It's not obvious whether that's a good thing or a bad thing or neither or something in between or a mixture of the two. It's very, very confusing because, as a martial artist, that sounds very appealing. Oh, yes, I should set goals for myself and not relent until I obtain them and then make a new goal, right? Doesn't sound like there's anything wrong with that, right? But at the same time, you can also kind of see how insisting on doing what I want and getting what I want and getting the goal that I made for myself. It's like, how do I know my goal for myself is the same as God's goal for me? And so it gets really tricky. But at the same time, we have free will. But at the same time, we should do God. The whole thing is very complex, and it's hard to know who's right or what the real philosophy you should have is. You see what I mean, or am I being weird?
Well, I would say it's probably. Have we gone? Have we fell off?
Are you there? I think you cut out for a second. Would you just say that again, please?
Oh. I'm gonna have to shut a few windows down. You went a bit robot. Right, that seems better. Yeah, I think it's about recognizing that need in you for will to power, but tempering it with the rest of your life. Like, it's a balancing act. It's useful, but like anything, if you let it run away with you, it's going to be damaging to you.
Exactly.
You've got to harness all of your drives. You've got to harness them correctly.
That's a very Jungian solution.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say so, because Jung's idea of psychoanalysis is that a person has to integrate all the aspects of himself so that they're all oriented toward, so that you're oriented towards one goal.
Yeah.
And so the question is your shadow something bad to be eradicated, or is your shadow neither good nor bad, but it's just something that you need to orient in a productive way? That's the big question.
Yeah, you can't get rid of it because you'll become weak.
That's what Nietzsche and Jung would say.
Yeah, definitely. Do you ever see the there's an old episode of Star Trek, like the first series of Star Trek, and there's one where Captain Kirk goes into the transporter and it splits him into two, and it takes out, the captain arrives, then another one arrives, and the other one arrives. Is like all the evil in him and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't work like, oh, there's a good one and there's an evil one. There's an evil one, but because all the drive and evil has gone out of the other Captain Kirk, he's just
evil, man.
Well, no, the other one's just super lethargic. He's not good. He just doesn't care about anything.
Oh, I see what you mean, because he has no zeal.
Yeah. If you subtract the dark, you don't leave the good. You leave something that can't function.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and that's an idea that I subscribed to for a long time, but I'm presently undecided as it happens.
Well, you want to have apathy about everything.
No, I'm just not sure that the shadow is the same thing as drive and motivation.
I think it is.
Okay.
It's not just drive and motivation. It's all the parts of you that give you the ability to have any sort of dominance. But it's up to you to control the amount that you try and exert on people and ideas.
So
because
that's
you've also got this part of you that cares deeply about other people, right? So you can't just be a ruthless bastard. I mean, you could, and some people are successful that way, but most people aren't. If you're a bastard continually, you get found out.
Yeah. So, I mean, it becomes a question of, do you need to keep every part of yourself in order to have the right balance? Or do you need to figure out, sort, as it were, sheep from goats and get rid of the goats? That's the big question. And, it said in other terms is, what's true? Christianity or Jungian psychology?
What do you mean by get rid of the goats?
Well, so you're talking about dominating your shadow so that it works towards your ends.
No, I'm not talking about dominating it.
Okay. Don't let me put words in your mouth.
I'm talking about it. Just accept when right. Have you ever been fishing and held a fish?
Yes.
What happens when you try and dominate it and hold it too tight?
It wriggles.
And what happens when it wriggles?
It gets out of your control.
Yeah. So when you hold the fish, you have to hold it firmly but not tightly.
Hold on loosely.
Yeah. And if you
Don't let go.
squeeze it far too hard, you'll kill
If you
it.
squeeze too tightly,
And that's what you
you're
do with your
gonna
dark side.
lose control. Go ahead.
And that's what you do with your dark side. It's the same thing.
Good
You just
analogy.
Don't
Very
exert
convincing.
it to its full capacity, because if you do, you'll be a horrible person. So you just use parts of it to be assertive and go after the things that you want. But at the same time, you've got to.
Unless the darkness isn't necessarily wrapped up with assertion, dominance, authority, etc., which may be the case, because if you think about Jesus as a concept, he's sort of this combination of opposite energies, because he's the ultimate power, but he's also incredibly merciful. He's intimidating and judging, but he's also forgiving and merciful. And so I quite like that idea as far as integration of opposites, but I think it's not the same as the Jungian idea.
Well, I just think if you look at the bad, like the harsh side, you as like this separate entity, I just think it would just be a much harder to deal with. Like when people think, like sometimes you have bad thoughts pop into your head, like, and they're usually pertaining to something that you give a shit about. So, you if you're carrying something fragile, you'll have a thought and go, "Oh, what if I just smash this on the floor?" Right? And people call that
intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, it's not, but it's not an intrusive thought. No one's coming up to you and injecting the thought into your head. It's your thought, but it's being triggered.
Yeah,
the worst possible idea to have.
Yeah, I know why you think that, but I actually think that they're not your thoughts, because I actually think that the angel and the demon thing always talking to you, I think that's literally the case.
Well, that might be the way that you manifest it. That's not the way I manifest it. I just think it's your brain working on those two aspects that it has to deal with and juggling. And then people that are mentally ill can't do that. You know, psychopaths have different brain structures.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and I think what a psychopath is someone that's listened too much to the demon to where now they can't tell what's real and what isn't.
Well, it's just a lack of empathy. I don't think you can be a psychopath and not a murderer. The psychopath is just the psychological state, I suppose. Not the action. You don't have to be a murderer. You just have to be someone that's just not capable of empathy at all. And then they can also.
But is that a physical problem or a spiritual problem?
Well, depends on if you're religious or not. I would say it's a physical problem. It's something going on in the brain. Like serious trauma can bring it on, but mostly I'm sure it's brought on by just the way that your brain develops. I could be wrong about that. I could be totally wrong about that.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on mental illness by any means, but there's certain things that seem too mysterious to be only physical. Like, for example, paranoid schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder.
What's dissociative identity?
So it's the mental illness that's commonly what's the word? Called incorrectly multiple personality disorder. Right.
Right.
So what's commonly known and technically incorrectly referred to as multiple personality disorder, it's actually a mental illness called dissociative identity disorder, because there's no such thing as multiple persons in one body. This is why I was really annoyed with Moon Knight, because because Moon Knight has dissociative identity disorder. Right?
You're right there. Medically, it doesn't really exist. Multiple personality disorder. It's never actually been proven.
Correct. And also, just physically, technically, there's no way for multiple different people to occupy the same body. That's just not a thing. And so I think they did a very, I would say, irresponsible job of the way they represented it, because they're acting as if the two different versions of Moon Knight are actually different people with each of them with a separate soul, which is just stupid. That's not how it works. What it really is it's usually caused by extreme trauma. And what happens is you're faced with something that is so traumatic for you that your brain shuts it away and you can't face it. And so at some level, there's part of you that knows that reality. But since you can't face it, most of the time, it's not that you're someone else, but most of the time you're living with a different set of memories.
Right.
Where you don't remember the traumatic event. And so if you split someone by memory, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show Severance, but I highly recommend it.
Oh, is that the one where when they go to work, they have all their memories wiped of the outside world, and then
exactly
when they go back to the outside world, it's the opposite. So
exactly.
they're two different people.
Exactly. So now you see how it's quote unquote two different people, but it's obviously not two different people. It's one person with their memories split into two So that creates kind of like a different person, because your at work person doesn't know or remember your at home memories, and vice versa, right? So that show does a very good job. It's sort of like a speculative fiction piece where the question is, what if you had a technology that could induce dissociative identity disorder at work? Is basically the conceit for that TV show. Genius. Brilliant idea. Wish I'd come up with it. Love it. And it's an excellent TV show. Highly, highly, highly recommended if you're into science fiction.
There's a good twist at the end of that as well.
I love that show. I can't wait. I hope they do a second season soon, because I'm very much into it. But basically, if you watch that TV show, you'll understand clearly what dissociative identity disorder is, right? So in the TV show, it's done that way so that you can be more productive at work. But in real life, it usually happens because you're unable or unwilling to face truths that you know that are too traumatic to deal with. So it doesn't really create a new person. It just means that sometimes you can remember the trauma and sometimes you can't. So you almost seem like a different person when you can versus when you can't.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Another good TV show to understand how that works is Mr. Robot.
I've not seen that. I've heard good things, though.
Very, very good show.
Yeah.
See, because a good friend of mine, without naming names, a good friend of mine has dissociative identity disorder. Oh. So it's weird talking to them, because sometimes they know things that other times they don't know. You see?
Shit, I feel like I've got to that then.
No, you just have bad memory.
Yeah, I have terrible memory.
Yeah.
Right. We're at the top of the hour. Should we call that an evening?
I think that's everything we needed to say, yeah.
If you all stuck around after we went completely off the rails, then thanks for hanging on. And I'll post some artwork and stuff up for you all soon. Yeah. I'll just find the thing.